Bali is, in no uncertain terms, a paradise, visited by countless tourists each year for its climate and natural beauty. But beneath the beaches and tropical resorts, Bali and Indonesia as a whole are developing a dark underbelly. Crime syndicates from across the globe have made Bali a hub, using it to create new routes into Australia, flooding the streets with narcotics. At the centre of it all, there's a shadowy figure, seemingly tying everything together. This is why drug cartels are taking over Bali. Bali's iconic beaches and vibrant nightlife attract millions of tourists and expats yearly. That makes it one of Southeast Asia's most popular travel destinations. The constant coming and going of outsiders doesn't go unnoticed by criminals. It presents an opportunity to cover up their actions, allowing them to blend in seamlessly with the crowds and go about their business without scrutiny. The thriving party scene and hospitality sector is the perfect veil. For organised crime groups, Bali is a place where brief encounters and constantly fluctuating populations make it easier to move drugs undetected. It isn't limited to Bali either. Indonesia is one huge archipelago with more than 17,000 individual islands. This makes it a logistical maze for authorities and a dream scenario for traffickers. Bali's proximity to Australia, separated by only a few hundred nautical miles, means it is the perfect place to use as a launch pad for operations targeting the lucrative Australian drug market. Smugglers exploit the gaps in border surveillance, moving cargo through hidden coves, overloaded ports, and even on small fishing boats to evade detection. Law enforcement between international agencies also causes problems here. Corruption scandals have been common within Indonesian police and customs agencies, making it hard for Australian authorities to work with their Indonesian counterparts to crack down effectively on the cartels. It all sounds so simple, but in reality it's a complex web of criminal activity. Organised crime networks now use sophisticated logistics to funnel massive quantities of drugs into Australia, with Bali and broader Indonesia serving as central points in their operations. The smugglers use a huge network of maritime shipping routes. Freighters sailing from Latin America dock in discreet Indonesian ports, their cargo concealed in hidden compartments within shipping containers, machinery, or even sealed within shipments of consumer goods. From there, the cargo is loaded into smaller boats, like fishing boats and even speedboats, which can navigate around the remote coves and less patrolled waters to transfer drugs from ship to shore, making the most of Indonesia's vast, complex archipelago. Human couriers, or mules, then take over on the final stretch to Australia. Syndicates recruit tourists, local fixers, and international expats, who then swallow drug-filled capsules, tape packages to their bodies, or hide substances inside suitcases and souvenirs. Others are tricked or coerced into carrying illicit shipments. Recent years have seen a surge in local and Westerners alike recruited for their ability to move effortlessly between Bali, Jakarta, and Australian cities. Due to the high volume of travellers, it's hard to identify these people unless they are picked up during random checks. Most of these shipments are made up of methamphetamine and cocaine, with Latin American cartels sending bulk quantities into Southeast Asia for repackaging and redistribution. Once in Indonesia, drugs travel overland or by air in cleverly concealed parcels, sometimes disguised as exports of legal products. Once in Australia, these drugs are distributed through established urban networks. Australia's strict drug laws and the logistical difficulties in getting drugs onto the streets mean that prices are kept sky high. Meth can fetch up to 10 times the international average, sometimes reaching up to $250,000 per kilogram. This makes the market a jackpot for syndicates willing to gamble with law enforcement. Everything comes together through a loose alliance between various criminal organisations. Indonesian syndicates with roots in local street gangs or ties to police or political figures control crucial trafficking corridors between Bali, Java, and key transit ports. These groups specialise in the logistics side of the network, looking after recruitment and local protection, making sure that shipments pass with minimal interference. Local gangs offer manpower and street-level enforcement, often serving as muscle for larger syndicates or acting as independent actors waiting for a lucrative opportunity. The expanding drug trade in Indonesia is now attracting the big players from outside of the region, most notably Mexican cartels, particularly the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel, CJNG. They have expanded their reach to Australia and New Zealand, targeting the methamphetamine and cocaine markets. Cartels are expanding into Asia by partnering with the local brokers and organised crime groups we mentioned before, relying on their expertise in logistics and distribution. They finance shipments disguised as legitimate goods and recruit Westerners and locals as mules or fixers to make sure they aren't detected. Recent cases highlight these ties to the Americas. In mid-2024, Australian Federal Police arrested individuals linked to a Mexican cartel plot to import 21 kilograms of methamphetamine into Sydney, tracing the whole thing back to cartel networks in Mexico and Southeast Asia. Joint operations involving the AFP, DEA, and local agencies continue to target these international syndicates. The landscape has grown more violent and technically advanced over time. Organised crime groups now use encrypted messaging apps to coordinate deals, launder their proceeds through shell companies and into cryptocurrency, and even order assassinations against rivals or informants. This convergence of Asian and Latin American syndicates has created a terrifying criminal ecosystem that's highly profitable and increasingly dangerous for anyone caught in its wake. The web, however wide-reaching, seems to lead back to one man, the linchpin behind the whole network in Australia. That man is Gregor Haas. Haas, a 46-year-old Australian, is a high-profile figure in the international drug trade, with deep ties to Southeast Asia and alleged links to the notorious Mexican Sinaloa cartel. Haas has a known criminal history involving drug trafficking and is currently wanted by Indonesian authorities for attempting to smuggle over 5 kilograms of methamphetamine concealed in a shipment of floor ceramics from Guadalajara, Mexico to Indonesia in December 2023. He was arrested in May 2024 in Cebu City, Philippines, after a long and complex international manhunt, and is now awaiting extradition to Indonesia, where he faces severe penalties, which could include the death sentence. Indonesian police describe Haas as a dangerous broker or fixer, facilitating connections between the Mexican cartels and distributors in Asia and Australia. "We suspect he has networks all over Asia and in Australia," said Krishna Murthy, head of the Indonesian National Police's International Relations Division. Haas's arrest is considered a significant blow to the global drug trade. This was a vital link in the complex logistics that funnel narcotics into Australia from Latin America via Southeast Asia. However, Haas' newly recognised Filipino citizenship complicates his fate. Public interest in his case remains high, partially due to his connection as the father of an Australian rugby star, leading to significant media coverage. Haas' arrest is expected to disrupt cartel operations in the Asia-Pacific drug trade, but ongoing legal proceedings and diplomatic negotiations may delay justice. Recent years have seen some of the largest drug busts involving Bali, Indonesia and Australia, which show the startling scale of the syndicate's operations. From April to June 2025, Indonesian authorities arrested 285 people suspected of drug trafficking, including 7 foreigners and 1 Australian, breaking up extensive syndicate networks. Over 684 kilograms of crystal meth, marijuana, ecstasy, THC, hashish and amphetamines were confiscated, worth millions of dollars. Assets worth approximately $2.3 million were also seized in money laundering investigations linked to the same networks. In early 2025, authorities seized over 600 kilograms of methamphetamine linked to networks operating out of Bali and Java, marking one of the largest drug interceptions in Australian history. In May 2025, a separate high-profile arrest involved an Australian man in Bali caught with 1.7 kilograms of cocaine and suspected drug trafficking links. This operation showed sophisticated tactics, such as using telegram messaging to coordinate shipments from Los Angeles and the Philippines, and transferring illegal drugs through postal services. These busts show the syndicate's global trafficking scale and the tactics they employ to carry out logistics spanning multiple countries. Indonesian officials warn that drug syndicates exploit Indonesia's youth and vulnerabilities, escalating local violence, corruption and social anxiety. Indonesia enforces harsh penalties, including the death penalty, for drug traffickers, with about 530 people, foreigners and nationals alike, currently on death row for drug crimes. Australia and Indonesia continue to fight these syndicates through joint task forces, enhanced maritime patrols, intelligence sharing, and public awareness campaigns aimed at reducing demand and breaking trafficking chains. Arrests of key traffickers across Indonesia and Australia have also exposed deep-rooted corruption scandals, as some law enforcement officials were discovered to be complicit or turning a blind eye to shipments. This corruption has heightened social anxiety in local communities, with rising violence reported in trafficking hubs, including Bali's tourist areas, where turf wars and assassinations occasionally erupt. These hotspots for holidaying internationals and retirement homes for countless expats seeking a slower pace of life are becoming places that are more dangerous than ever before. In response to this, both governments have strengthened the legislation and doubled down on their international cooperation. Australia has increased penalties for drug offences and has expanded its federal police's specialist trafficking units. Indonesia has launched coordinated crackdowns and enhanced maritime patrols targeting known smuggling routes. Joint task forces combining Indonesian, Australian and Philippine law enforcement share real-time intelligence and conduct cross-border operations to dismantle trafficking cells. Public awareness campaigns are also in place to reduce demand and raise vigilance in vulnerable communities. Organised crime is constantly evolving, exploiting new routes and technologies. The Bali-centred drug syndicate shows that single nations cannot combat these threats alone. Sustained international collaboration is needed to shut down these vast networks. Agencies from Indonesia, Australia, the Philippines and beyond must keep sharing intelligence, conducting joint operations, and consistently enforcing strict legal measures in place to disrupt drug networks. Public awareness and community action are equally important. To reduce demand and prevent local exploitation, communities across Indonesia and Australia need to be aware of the dangers of becoming caught up in this web of criminality. As Gregor Haas's arrest demonstrates, law enforcement can strike hard, but the question remains, will such high-profile arrests stem the tide, or is this just the surface of an expanding trade? Will the next kingpin rise where Haas has fallen? These questions remain a call for continued vigilance and a united global effort. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you want more stories from the Australian underworld, please consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps me out and helps the channel grow. Till next time, take care.